Good morning, world. Well, at least it's morning time here in the U.S. If you're tuning in from another country, happy day to you, whatever time it is, and welcome to the Patriot Party. I'm Matt, and I'm so happy to be here, starting off the weekend with y'all guys and gals. Before we get started, there's a few things I'd like to go over. If you're new to the show, I'd like to take you on a quick tour so you know what to expect. And all y'all loyal listeners, just give me a sec. Bear with me just for 1 sec. So, we do unbiased news. We go through all the news and give you an unbiased news story, and then I give you my conservative viewpoints. The news that we go over, we do general news, we do political news, we do world news, we do geopolitical news, we do financial news, we do tech news. Sometimes we do our very own truth news. We don't have any of that this week. We did last week. We do celebrity news and gossip. We do sports and sports news. We do new movies. We do new TV shows and what channels they're on and where they're streaming from and their descriptions. And then we do my personal pick of the week from my collection of shows and movies that come highly recommended by yours truly. At the Patriot Party, we are all immersive, conservative, America First movement that's not affiliated with any political party. Definitely wouldn't affiliate with any of those. I think I heard the best analogy about a month or two ago. I know I've said it on some past podcasts. Democrat, Republican, different wings on the same vulture. Will not affiliate with either one. We're providing entertainment news and updates done like never before to get you caught up on everything in one place. If you enjoy the content, we ask that you please follow and share the channel. In the description of the video, we have also included links to our X, the Patriot Party, Facebook, the Patriot Party, YouTube, America First Patriot, and TikTok, America First Patriot accounts. On Apple Podcasts, these links are clickable. They've also looked like they have become clickable on Spotify, but on other platforms, they are kind of jumbled up. So we included the names for your convenience. You can go check out our other pages, join them, see what we do there. We do a lot of content creation, a lot of creative stuff going on there. And I encourage you to submit questions, comments, or even topic suggestions. Hey, I've gotten topic suggestions before, and they ended up being some of the best topics that I've researched and deep dived into. Had no clue about stuff that went back into the 60s and 50s. And they ended up being great stuff. So I do encourage topic suggestions. You can do that on Spotify, or you can DM me on X, on the X page, the Patriot Party. And I thank you so much for your support, because without y'all, guess what? We wouldn't be here. And now to the show. So the first news story I've got for you all guys and gals today, MAGA kind of has a little bit of a meltdown over the new Pope's anti-Trump, pro-immigrant social media. In his most, and I'm speaking of the Pope, or the new Pope, recent post before entering the conclave, Prevost criticized Trump and the Salvadorian president Nayib Bukele for making light of the deportation and detention of Kilmore Abrigo Garcia. Prevost linked to an article from the website Catholic Standard comparing the plights and persecutions experienced by immigrant and refugee communities to the passion of Jesus Christ. Now, we will break down this in just a second. The thing is I can agree with the part of the post where he's talking about the guy who was taken out of Maryland and his plight. He was never supposed to be removed from the United States. What I can't agree with is him talking about the millions and millions, maybe tens of millions. Nobody really has an accurate number. Some people say 8 million, some people say 12 million, some people say 15, some people say up to 20 million. Nobody really knows. What I can't agree with is him talking about all these illegal immigrants who are sucking our systems dry, our taxpayer coffers, these people let in by the Biden administration. My thing is, now, first off, before we go any further, this is a monumentous moment. There has never been a U.S. Pope. They have always shunned electing a U.S. Pope in the conclave. So, that is a big thing. But, when you really get down to it, and I grew up Catholic. I was an altar boy. I did first communion, catechism, all that good stuff. But when you really get down to it, the Pope is just another man. He's supposed to be a man closer to God, but he really is someone who is elected. And if you study the conclaves, there's actually different sects. They have liberal, like Francis. They have conservative. And some of them go to great lengths to win. I mean, some of them go to great lengths even to the point of buying votes. And if they are caught, of course, they are thrown out. These cardinals are thrown out of being able to be cardinals at all. They are stripped of their title. But that does not stop these people. They are human beings. So my thing is, let me get back to the topic at hand. When you're talking about that single individual, I still believe that somebody needs to be held accountable and he needs to be brought back to the U.S. But when you are talking about all immigrant and refugee communities, you have no business telling the United States how to deal with national security. That would be like me or somebody in the U.S. telling the Pope and the Catholic Church how to hold Mass and how to pray. Stay in your lane. Stay in your lane. I think he's Leo the 14th was the name he chose. Stay in your lane. Leo, stay in your lane. So the U.S. and China, they agreed to major reductions in tariffs. They say it's for 90 days. Personally, I think that Trump blinked. It'll be interesting to see if this huge change in economy, in economic structure, in trade agreements, if it actually happens. We've also, been reported to that India has refused to charge any tariffs on U.S. products. So, there still are large countries bucking. Apparently, the U.S. and China met in Geneva, Switzerland. That always seems to be a place of no sides. It always seems to be a place, Switzerland, they don't ever take sides. Geneva always seems to be Geneva Convention. It always seems to be a place where, two adversarial parties will feel safe meeting. So anyway, they meet there. And the U.S. had 145% tariff on China. China had 125% tariff on U.S. goods. The U.S. dropped down to 30%, and that is including a rate tied to the fentanyl. And Chinese dropped down to 10%. This further reemphasizes my theory and advice from the beginning. You can listen to earlier episodes when the tariffs first came in, even before they were enacted. And I said Trump needs to use a scalpel, not a sickle like he was talking about using to just clean cut across everything. He needs to, because nobody ever crossed that line in the sand. None of our allies when he was threatening tariffs. He could have threatened tariffs and said, look, if you don't join with me to bring China in check, then you will face the full wrath of the U.S. tariffs. And I guarantee you 9 out of 10 or better of our allies would have joined with us. And then it wouldn't have been U.S. against China. It would have been the Western civilization against China. And it would have strengthened the bond with our allies instead of throwing the world into turmoil for a little while. Now, this next report, it really chaps my tail, to say the least. These people have been promised and our word gone back on, and they have been put through absolute hell. And here we are getting ready to put them through hell again. Let me explain. So the other day, now I have no problem with this. The other day we received our first load of white South African farmers. No issue at all. They were facing genocide over in their country with the apithid or apithard. And, South Korea was taken over years ago. It was taken from the whites, the English, Germans before that. It was taken from the whites to the blacks, and now the blacks want to run the whites off their farms. They say they are owed the reparations, they are owed the farmland, and they are threatening genocide if they haven't already killed a lot, which I heard they had. So we have opened our arms, Trump has, to fast-track citizenship, bringing them in, which is what we're supposed to do with anyone who has a asylum claim that reaches the level of genocide or persecution. So I'm cool with that. But this is where the article takes a twist that I am not cool with. So I don't know if y'all remember, but years ago when Biden first got in, and I said this lost him the presidency, and then they stopped playing it, they stopped talking about it, whatever. We did a disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan. Disastrous. We had people that had worked with and been interpreters for our military for 20 years, the 20 years that we had been over there. And I'm going to give you some numbers here in a minute. And the United States and the military had promised that when we left, because they knew their lives and their families' lives would be in danger, that we would bring them with us and they would get green cards or citizenship, and they would get, them and their family would get to live in the U.S. They sided with the U.S. and they worked, some of them for 20 years, right alongside. A lot of them died right alongside U.S. soldiers as guides, as interpreters. So when we were doing that disastrous withdrawal, I don't know if you all remember the shots. They were very, very graphic shots of planes taking off, U.S. planes, and these Afghans who had helped and been promised to be brought over to the U.S., holding on to the wheels of the planes because they knew what was going to come, what was coming to them. And getting hundreds of feet up in the air and then not being able to hold on anymore and falling to their death. And all this was live on news. It was a horrendous sight. We left tens of thousands, and I'm going to give you numbers here in a minute, of Afghan people and their families who we promised over there. And do you know what happened to them? The Taliban hunted them down, drug them and their families out in the street, killed the children, then the wife, while they made the husband who had helped our military or the U.S. or, at the consulate or wherever they helped at, while they made them watch. Most of the time, these deaths were very, very barbaric beheading. Can you imagine watching your children one by one be beheaded, then your wife, then you? We left them over there for that. Well, we got 9,000 out. But instead of giving them full citizenship, we granted them temporary status for helping the U.S. military for 2 decades. Now, the Afghans, the 9,000, who will probably be persecuted and murdered by the Taliban, Trump says, hey, they'll be safe. Trump, how do you know? Trump, how? What do you mean they'll be safe? Trump is going to send them back. He's going to send them back, the few that we got out. Because let me give you the real number. Let me give you how many that we left behind. We left 78,000 behind. And now we want to send the few 9,000 that we got out. And I don't think the 78,000 is including their families. Because when I looked it up, it said 3% got out. Well, 9,000 is not 3% of 78,000. So I am under the impression if you add 3 or 4 to every one of the 78,000, that would come up to somewhere around 3%. So actually 4 times that number were killed, brutally murdered. But Trump wants to send them back. Now the Africans, I have no problem that they're white. Hell, I'm half white, half Lebanese. I have no problem with race. I'm not looking at that. I'm looking at the promise we made and the fact that he wants to break the promise that was already broken and send the little 3% that we got out when we were supposed to get them all out. Send them back. And then he has the nerve to come out and say, well, maybe the Christians can stay. Are you serious? Because this country was built on freedom. Freedom of religion. Freedom of speech. So you're going to violate their constitutional rights because if you are in this country, you are protected by the Constitution. You don't have to be a citizen like so many people think. You've got to be an American citizen to be protected by the Constitution. No, you don't. If you live here, if you stay here, if you pitch a tent and you get in it, if you sleep on a park bench and you're from another country, you are protected by the Constitution. We may not like it. Now, there are things that I came out with the other day that have been used to limit the Constitution for illegal immigrants and get them out of our country. I believe we should. But not these people. Not these people who have already been through hell. Let me take a breath. I apologize. I get a little riled up because the whole situation when it happened, and I thought about how much they had done and how we would not have been able to do what we did and how we could have kept that country so easily and how Joe Biden screwed this whole thing up, and then how, these poor people had to watch their families brutally murdered, and we just $1 trillion and we just give it away. It made me sick to start with, and then now here it is. Trump's going to send them back. Oh, they're safe. I'm almost speechless there. I actually am speechless. It makes me sick. So let's get on to something that's a little... it's not really comical, but it is kind of comical. So Russia and Putin are... boy, Putin, I'll tell you what, Putin gets the problem, and he comes out with some creative ways, and by God, he's gonna he is gonna fix it, even if it violates whatever it violates. He's gonna fix it. So let me tell you about Russia. Russia's demographic has been in decline long before the war in Ukraine, and now it's in a free fall since 2022. Hundreds of thousands of Russians have died or suffered critical injuries in Ukraine. The result, Russians may have had fewer children from January to March of 2005 than in any 3-month period over the past 200 years. As of 2023, the country's fertility rate is 1.4 births per woman. So what does Vladimir Putin do? He commands his government to stimulate Russian women to have at least 3 children and make sure they get pregnant when they're young. I'm telling you, there's crazy, crazy stuff over there. So they go through the Ministry of Education and they've been discussing ways on how to create conditions for romantic relationships in schools. Last month, Moscow's Department of Health displayed giant pink banners around the city asking women, how's it going? Still haven't given birth? It's crazy. You get a country like, I think it was Japan. Might have been China. I know it was one of the Asian countries, but I think it was Japan, who limited women to 1 birth. And I want to say they wanted it to be a male, but either way, so they could carry on the name. But either way, they were limited to 1 birth, and now you got this country free falling, and they're stimulating and making a policy that you got to have at least 3 children. So Trump had a big time over meeting with Saudi Arabia. They did a $600 billion investment. It's aimed at funding U.S. companies, projects across multi-sectors, including energy, defense, technology, and infrastructure. So this means American firms will provide services, products, and expertise in exchange for Saudi capital. So, me, you guys and gals know me. I like numbers. I like to know things. So I wanted to know, out of that $600 billion, what are the profit margins? Like, how much is actually going to go into our economy? So I looked it up. So for defense contracts, typically the profit margins are between 10 and 15%, which is a little lower than I thought. But high-tech military equipment can push margins higher. Technology investments, such as AI and cloud computing, now they do have high profit margins, exceeding 20 to 30%, especially companies like NVIDIA, which, gosh, I had invested some money in that stock years ago, and I ended up selling it, and I wish I'd have held on to it because they're into everything now. And AMD securing major deals. Infrastructure projects have lower margins. This really is 5 to 10%. Those are low. But Saudi Arabia has also expressed interest in expanding the total investment to $1 trillion, which could further boost U.S. economic growth. If structured well, this partnership could be highly lucrative for American businesses. So let's take a look at this, and let's just say, okay, it's getting spread across these platforms, or these different investments, these different businesses. So let's try to come up with a median profit margin for this. Now, this is just an estimate. We're going to go on the low end. We're going to say defense contract 10%. We're going to say technology investments, they say exceeding 20 to 30%. They say exceeding. So let's do 30%. So 10 and 30 is 40%. And infrastructure is 5 to 10. Let's go on the low end on that since we went on a little bit higher end on the other. So that is going to be 45 out of 3 different, now we didn't do energy, but we did these 3 different ones. So let's just do these 3. So we got 45% divided by 3 gives us roughly a 15% margin. 15% of $1 trillion would be 150 billion. 15% of 600 million is going to be 90 billion. So, it's a good investment. Is it going to be scattered across all those different things? 90 billion, $100 billion, is that huge? Yeah, it's good, but scattered across all that, it's not, earth shattering. But hey, he did a good deal. He did larger than any other president. So the director of national intelligence fired top officials weeks after their group authored an assessment contradicting President Donald Trump's legal rationale for deporting alleged Venezuelan gang members. Now, last week I went over how Obama did it. Clinton used it a little bit, but Obama really did it, and he was able to get millions out of the country without having to deal with many judges, and able to use U.S. law enforcement. It was just, I outlined the whole thing. You can even go on my X page, and I've got it all typed out on a post. This is how Trump needs to do mass deportation, and you can read it, and it tells you step by step what needs to happen. The actions are the latest purge by Gabbard, who has said she is fighting politicization of the intelligence community, but has removed or sidelined officials perceived to not support Trump's political agenda. Now, that is an oxymoron, and we will go over it in a minute. Because anything that reduces the agency's independence because policymakers don't like the independent conclusion it reaches is the definition of politicization. So the fact that she fired these top officials who contradicted Donald Trump's legal rationale that we have gone over, that he has a propensity to skip letting the White House counsel and the DOJ, Office of Legal Counsel, go over these things and listens to his loyalist. So I'm sure there were a lot of holes in it to get rid of people who don't like what the politician says is making an agency political. Shame on you, Tulsi Gabbard. Shame on you. Now, if there was no mustard there, if they didn't have anything to back up what they were writing, they were just contradicting it with nothing to back it up, but that's not what they're saying. They were contradicting his legal rationale. They didn't say they contradicted his legal rationale, but they had nothing to back it up. They just said they contradicted his legal rationale. Real IDs. I was actually getting ready to go get one, but they've been pushed back for 2 years. It's the 5th time they've been pushed back since the act actually came out in 2005. But the whole thing is a scam. It's a farce. I don't know how many of you have got them or looked into them. At least in Louisiana, literally, to get a real ID, you have to have the same paperwork, identification paperwork, to get a regular driver's license. You know the only difference? They're like double or triple the price. There's no extra identification that you need to get one. Same paperwork. It's a freaking way for the government to get more money out of us. Just like these freaking tariffs. Where are they going? They're going to the government. And Trump's saying, well, it's going to pay off the deficit. Yeah, out of our pockets. Now, this next story is, boy, some things just never cease to amaze me. House Budget Committee vote looks like it's going to be delayed due to opposition. Now I'm thinking opposition Democrats. No, hardliners. Hardline Republicans who, all right, so this bill extends cuts costing almost $4 trillion over a decade, $3.72 trillion over a decade. The Republicans need complete unity almost. They can't have but 3 that will veer, or they won't get the bill. And they probably won't get the bill anyway, because I'm sure they're going to call a filibuster in the Senate. But, which means they'll need a 2/3 majority, a supermajority vote, and they don't have that. But these Republicans need unity and the Democratic opposition to cut social programs. Now, the opposition from these hardliners are hardline Republicans who want deeper cuts to Medicaid and SNAP. And you've got other people sounding the bell saying, well, shoot, this is going to add almost $4 trillion to the deficit, which is already $36.2 trillion. Now, here's my problem. Here is my problem. We are coming out of Bidenomics. This is your first bill. We're coming out of your big, beautiful bill, which is what it's been called. Quotations, the big, beautiful bill. We're coming out of Bidenomics, which was failed and thousands of businesses went out of business. You need benefits. SNAP is already on a shoestring budget. With no cuts, you are expected to eat off $6.20 a day. Medicaid, they want to make it where you have to work to get Medicaid. Well, guess what? With the tariffs, you got companies laying off, but you also got a lot of companies doing hiring freezes. So you might not can get work. A lot of people on Medicaid can't work. And you got people on Medicaid who live out in the country and don't have a car and couldn't get to a job. They have to use the Medicaid transportation option, where Medicaid will set up transportation for them to get to their doctor's appointments. So you're trying to cut this, which is already on a shoestring budget, make it impossible for some people that need it. And then you got hardliners that want to cut it more. It reminds me of when Tom Cotton said, we have an under-incarceration problem. And when he said that, the United States was 5% of the world's population. And guess what? They held 25% of the world's incarcerated population. So 5 times the amount of population versus incarcerated population. And you got Tom Cotton saying, we got an under-incarceration problem. And half these senators and attorney generals get campaign funds from private prisons and places like that. That's why they make statements like that. But you know what makes me mad about this bill? You know what makes me mad about it? Is it's being sold to the middle class. Guess what? Guess what, guys and gals? You're not going to get taxed on tips or overtime anymore. That sounds great. Sounds great. It also, if they really wanted to stimulate the economy, the cuts would go to small and mid-sized businesses. Now, as a business, you have a lot of write-offs, especially the really big ones, especially the really rich people. But guess what? Let's go back to the topic at hand, the middle class. So this tax cut's being sold to the middle class is not getting taxed on tips and overtime. Guess what the dirty little truth is about that? That expires in 2028, 3 years. That works for 3 years. But guess what? The cuts for the wealthy are permanent. So this is a bill to trick the middle class into supporting something for the people that don't need the tax cut. The people that have all the write-offs. I told you, when I owned all my companies, when I was living in Charlotte, I wrote my boat off. And all the gas. Everything. Because I said I took clients out on it. I did sometimes. But I wrote everything off. You can write off everything if you have a good tax guy and you own companies. Or you run companies. So let's get some tech news. We got some tech news. SpaceX Starship progress. SpaceX conducted a static fire test for the Starship upper stage, preparing for its 9th test flight. The FAA approved license modifications for the mission, though immediate flight clearance is pending. Emirates is also in talk with SpaceX to enhance in-flight Wi-Fi using Starlink. Samsung's slim smartphone. Samsung launched its slimmest smartphone yet, intensifying competition with Apple. This move underscores the ongoing race in mobile hardware innovation. AI and cybersecurity concerns. Experts warn that tech companies are prioritizing AI product development over safety, with reduced testing time for models like OpenAI's O3 and O4 Mini. Meanwhile, North Korean operatives are exploiting remote tech jobs to fund weapons programs, with CrowdStrike identifying 30 companies affected by such schemes. That's scary stuff. That's Terminator stuff, y'all. Ad tech legal battle. Double Verify is suing Analytics, alleging defamation over a report on fraudulent digital ad traffic, highlighting tensions in the ad tech industry. Lunar Navigation Tech, Spanish company GMV, unveiled Lupin, a GPS-like system for real-time lunar navigation aimed at supporting rovers and astronauts. AI development. Saudi Arabia launched Human AI, and Future House introduced an AI agents platform for scientific discovery. Meta is reportedly revisiting facial recognition tech, raising privacy concerns. Now, this is concerning to a lot of people. The United Emirates and the United States have signed an agreement for the Gulf country to build the largest, now this is Trump still, the largest artificial intelligence campus outside the United States, one of several deals around AI made during Donald Trump's visit to the Middle East. Now, this is where it gets a little tricky, but the agreement has also raised concerns since it would have faced restrictions under the previous administration over Washington's fears that China could access the technology. The agreement to build the campus would give UAE, the United Emirates, Arab Emirates, expanded access to advanced AI chips. The U.S. and UAE did not say which AI chips could be included in the data centers, but sources told Reuters that UAE could be allowed to import 500,000 of NVIDIA's most advanced AI chips per year starting in 2025. A little worried about that. We don't want China meddling. I mean, China has its own advanced technology, but we don't want them meddling in our advanced technology. Because obviously we don't want them knowing what we've got. Although I'm sure they've got spies, so I'm sure they do. So we'll just have to play it by ear, see what happens. Financial news. Coinbase cyber attack impact. Coinbase reported a potential financial hit of $180 million to $400 million due to a cyber attack that compromised account data for a small subset of customers. As disclosed in a regulatory filing, this highlights growing cybersecurity risk in the crypto sector. I would not trust any of these daggum places. It's not about the crypto getting taken. It's about the places holding the crypto or doing your investment into the crypto. The United Health Medicare fraud probe. United Health faces a criminal investigation by the DOJ for possible Medicare fraud, with the probe active since at least last summer. The company's CEO, Andrew Whitty, stepped down unexpectedly, and its 2025 financial forecast was suspended due to rising medical costs. U.S.-China trade truce boost market. We already know about the 90-day, 30%, 10%. It sparked a market rally. I don't know if y'all did, but I know I told y'all last time when the market was crashing, it was a really good time to do some investing. I did some. I hope y'all did too. The S&P 500 and NASDAQ closed higher, and Tesla, Apple, and NVIDIA gaining significantly. However, some companies like Skechers withdrew financial forecasts due to ongoing trade policy uncertainty. Those are places that are being hit by the tariffs. Federal Reserve holds rates. The Federal Reserve maintains steady interest rates, citing risk of higher inflation and unemployment amid Trump's tariff policies. Fed Chair Jerome Powell indicated no rush to cut rates, potentially impacting market expectations for 2025. Gold and Bitcoin movements. Gold prices stabilized. They've been a little bit all over the place. Last time I saw them, they were around 32.50 or so. They had been up to about 33.50, which I was loving. But the dollar has actually strengthened, which, I guess since there's been, since the tariffs happened and they backed off some, the dollar strengthened and it had gotten weaker. I don't know. We'll just have to wait and see. Gold's always going to hold that value, so we'll just have to wait and see what happens. And reduce safe haven demand post-tariff truce. Bitcoin fell below 102,000, which is just crazy to me. When that stuff first came out, it was worth a tenth of a cent. Back when it was at 20,000, if you had have invested like $100, you would be worth $100 million. So I think now you would be worth like $500 million if you invested $100. $200 would have made you a billionaire. It's freaking ridiculously crazy. I mean, can you even think about that? I invested $200 back in, God, when did it come out? It was like 2000. I can't remember. It was like 2011 or something. It was 2010. I don't remember. It wasn't a long, long time ago. Can you imagine? I invested $200. I became a billionaire. Anyway, it fell from 105,000. A lot of people said it was going to go up to 131,000 like a couple of years ago, and I'm like, they are crazy. It might end up doing it. Corporate earnings and layoffs. Panasonic announced 10,000 global layoffs as part of a restructuring, while Krispy Kreme faced a stock plunge after missing Q1 revenue. I just never understood, man. I'm telling you, I have eaten donuts. I mean, here in Louisiana, they have something called Southern Made. It's supposed to be the best ever. They do not hold a light to Krispy Kreme. I took my fiance and her daughter to Krispy Kreme, and they're like, "Oh my God, these are the best donuts I've ever eaten." Everybody ever, when they're hot off the belt, when they got that hot sign off and they're hot and they melt in your mouth, never had a donut better than that. I don't understand why they have such a hard time. They went bankrupt at one point. Tax and spending proposals. House Republicans are pushing a tax and spending cut package, potentially increasing taxpayer savings but cutting Medicaid food stamps. We've already talked about that. Celebrity news and gossip. Jennifer Aniston had an incident. A man crashed a car through the front gate of Jennifer Aniston's Bel Air home while she was present. The LAPD reported no injuries, and the incident is under investigation. ASAP, the S is a $, Rocky's career move. ASAP Rocky discussed his acting ambitions in a Variety cover story, highlighting his work with Denzel Washington, plans for a film with Rihanna, and his relief after an assault trial. Lady Gaga drama. Post on X reported a heated argument between Lady Gaga and her fiancé at Copacabana Palace, fueling breakup rumors. Additionally, Gaga learned of an alleged bomb plot against her through media reports, not authorities. Taylor Swift subpoena buzz. X post speculated about a Daily Mail article on Taylor Swift's day in the life as possible shade, coinciding with her being subpoenaed and Blake Lively's comments about a tough year. Meghan Markle criticism. A celebrity chef faced legal threats after criticized Meghan Markle's show, calling it painful to watch. It's just so ridiculous. You can't say anything these days where people and crazies aren't going to just come after you. I mean, people need to respect the Constitution. You have a freedom of speech. You don't have to like what they say. Don't listen to it. Don't take it. Don't engage. But they have freedom of speech. They have freedom of assembly. They have these freedoms, and people want to, it's bad enough the government at certain points want to limit these freedoms, but then you got to deal with the public who wants to limit the freedoms. It's awful. K-pop romance scandal. A K-pop idol's rumored romance with 17's Hashi sparked fan outrage after intimate details were shared publicly. Sports news. NFL schedule released. The NFL announced its 2025 schedule, a post on X highlighting key matchups like Bills-Eagles rematch with a Week 16 Saturday doubleheader featuring division rivalries. Fans are buzzing about potential standout teams and games such as Tua Tagovailoa's 6 TD comeback win against Baltimore being a focal point for Miami's season outlook. MLB scores and trade rumors. Wednesday's MLB games saw notable results, including the Twins sweeping a doubleheader against the Orioles 6-3, 8-6. The Cardinals splitting with Phillies 1-2, 14-7. And the Yankees trying the Mariners 3-3. Trade rumors swirled around the Steelers and Cowboys, finalizing a deal to send W.R. George Pickens to Dallas for draft picks, though details remain unconfirmed. Women's sports growth. Scripps partnered with Freewill to boost ad investments in women's sports, focusing on WNBA and NWSL broadcast on ION. And AP NORC poll found 3 in 10 U.S. adults follow women's sports closely, driven by stars like Caitlin Clark. Scripps also announced ION as the exclusive TV home for the inaugural SI Women's Games and a college basketball tournament. And NBA results in the NBA. The Knicks fell to the Celtics 102-127, while Warriors defeated the Timberwolves 110-121, reflecting early season competition heating up. And we have some NHL controversy. New York Governor Kathy Hochul sent an open letter to NHL Commissioner Gary Bettman expressing frustration over the 2026 All-Star Game at UBS Arena being replaced by an Olympic kickoff event, signaling tension over event prioritization. Now we got new movies. This first one is funny because I was talking about this line of movies or series of movies, and now I just saw a new one came out. We actually might take our daughter to see it this weekend. I got to look at the preview, see how wicked it's going to be. If it's going to look like it's going to be really good, we might take her to see it on IMAX. It is Final Destination Bloodlines, and I don't understand why they don't have it on 3D. I was hoping they would have it 3D. It is obviously a horror, rated R. The 6th installment in the horror franchise follows a new group facing gruesome chain reaction deaths orchestrated by death itself, featuring a strong opening sequence. And Tony Todd's final performance is a chilling return to the series' roots. Starring Breck Bassinger, Richard Harmon, and Tony Todd. Hurry Up Tomorrow, a theatrical release on May 16th. It's a thriller. A musician plagued by insomnia. Abel Thesfa, a.k.a. The Weeknd, embarks on a surreal odyssey with a mysterious stranger, blending existential angst and music. This sci-fi thriller explores psychological and emotional depths, starring Jenna Ortega, The Weeknd, and Barry Keoghan. The Roost, theatrical release is May 16th. An in-home caregiver faces terror while tending to a mysterious elderly patient in a remote seaside home, uncovering dark secrets. This suspenseful thriller keeps viewers on the edge with its eerie atmosphere, starring Veronica Cartwright and Madeline Dundon. Jane Austen Wrecked My Life. It is a comedy, May 16th. An aspiring author takes a writing residency, finding herself entangled in humorous and heartfelt situations inspired by Jane Austen's themes, a lighthearted exploration of creativity and personal growth, starring Camille Rutherford and Pablo Bali. Things Like This, theatrical release, May 16th, a coming-of-age story focusing on personal discovery and relationships set against a backdrop of modern challenges. Specific plot details are sparse, but it's noted for its emotional resonance. The Old Woman with the Knife. Its release is May 16th. Based on the novel, this Korean film follows an aging assassin confronting her past and a new generation of killers. It blends intense action with introspective drama. Naravita, it's May 16th. This fantasy adventure, a fantastical tale about uniting kingdoms featuring a teenage tooth fairy and magical creatures on a quest to overcome evil forces. A family-friendly adventure with vibrant visuals starring Larkin Bell and John Levitas. The Wiz release, theatrical release, May 18th. Musical fantasy. I cannot watch a musical. I have tried. That I had to spend freaking $20 to rent that daggum. What's that Wizard of Oz movie that came out? Oz, whatever it's called. I just can't watch musicals. But my daughter and fiance loved it. Anyway, re-release of the 1978 classic. I know that was off topic, a little bit off topic. This urban retelling of The Wizard of Oz follows Dorothy's journey through, I guess it really wasn't off topic, through a fantastical New York City starring Diana Ross and Michael Jackson. It's a vibrant celebration of music and culture. Lilo and Stitch, 4DX fan events, theatrical releases May 22nd. A special 4DX. Wow, that's way okay. Well, I'm giving you some way beyond today, May 18th, and May 18th is tomorrow, but the 22nd, and it'll probably come around next week too. I have to try to remember not do it again. We might get a little repeat next week. Anyway, it's a 4DX re-release of the beloved Disney animated film. A girl and her alien friend Stitch expect enhanced sensory effects for an immersive experience. Brown Morning, theatrical release May 22nd again. Specific details are limited, but this film is listed as a new release. All right, new TV shows. Murderbot, series premiere May 16th, sci-fi drama, Apple TV Plus, based on Martha Wells' novel. This series follows a security android with a penchant for soap operas as it navigates human interaction and dangerous missions, starring Alexander Skarsgård. It blends action, humor, and introspection. The 4 seasons, series premiere May 16th. Comedy, Hulu, a modern take on the 1981 film. This comedy follows 4 couples navigating love and friendship during seasonal vacations. Created by Tina Fey. It stars Steve Carell and Coleman Domingo. Promising sharp wit. Duster, series premiere May 16th. Set in the 1970s. Southwest, a getaway driver for a crime syndicate takes on increasingly risky jobs. Starring Josh Holloway. This J.J. Abrams produced series mixes gritty action and period vibes. Adults, series premiere May 16th. Is comedy drama Netflix, a coming-of-age story about young adults' life's messy realities, blending humor and heartache. So, after all that, we get to my pick of the week. So, for my pick of the week, I enjoyed this show thoroughly. It has some political intrigue. I like things that, you think one thing's going to happen and boom, it goes out into left field. So, anyway, it's called Homeland. It's a political thriller drama series that follows Carrie Matheson, a brilliant but volatile CIA officer with bipolar disorder, as she navigates complex counterterrorism operations. The show explores themes of national security, espionage, and personal sacrifice, blending intense action and psychological depth. It centers on Carrie's investigations into threats, including her complicated relationship with Nicholas Brody, a U.S. Marine turned potential terrorist. The network, Homeland, aired on Showtime in the United States, running for 8 seasons. It's 8 seasons. It is good. It is binge watch good. It came out in 2011, October, and it finished in April 26th of 2020. And I believe I watched it on Hulu, and I binged it. I loved it. So if you like political intrigue, you like, things that you have to really think, you like to see like stuff that really could happen, probably has happened, then you will like this show. And I recommend it highly. Y'all, thank you so much for sitting through. I know I got on a few rants and raves. Thank y'all for sitting through it. Thank y'all again for listening and coming in and tuning into an episode. We will be here same time, same place next week. Y'all guys and gals, be safe out there. Be safe out there, and I will be praying for y'all that listen, that are in the situations that I talk about with these programs that they're trying to cut, and y'all need them. You will truly be in my heart, because I don't agree with what's going on, and you will truly be in my heart. And just keep your head up. Y'all have a great week, and I will talk to you next week.